in the suffocating hollows of Ashmore, Tennessee, where the fog never lifts and the trees lean as if eavesdropping, there stood an estate no local dared to approach after dusk. Once the pride of the land, the Fairbourne Manor now loomed like a mausoleum on the ridge, its windows blank and its pond below rumored to thirst for blood. By late fall of 2025, the townsfolk had long since whispered about the evil festering there, but none dared to confront it. None, save for Edward Fairbourne, a grieving 46-year-old widower and mayor, who called the place home, though it had grown more like a tomb. Inside those rotting walls, his wife, Helena, wasted away, her sickness tied to the rhythm of the new moon, and something ancient lurking beneath the pond's black surface. Dr. Malcolm Greaves, a pragmatic man of science pushing 60, had attended to Helena for over a year. Yet her mysterious fevers, always striking during the dark moon, left him stumped. Her condition worsened despite rest, herbs, and every pill his bag could carry. "There's something unnatural here," Malcolm muttered one evening, glancing out the fogged window. Edward followed his gaze. The pond below the manor shimmered with a faint crimson sheen that hadn't been there before. "That pond's older than the town," the doctor added. "And the stories, they weren't just stories, were they?" That night, Edward sat by Helena's bedside, clutching her hand. She was shivering again, her skin ice cold, her breath shallow. "It's not just fever," she whispered, barely audible. "She's coming again." The following night, the air in Ashmore turned metallic, as if soaked in iron. Edward jolted awake around midnight to a whisper, his name soft and venom-laced. "Edward!" He rose, instinctively grabbing the revolver he hadn't used in years. At the bedroom window, through the mist, he saw a figure by the pond. A woman, her skin ghost white, hair floating as though underwater. Her eyes glowed like burning coal, and a black gash yawned across her throat. "You can't save her," she rasped. The window cracked, as if reacting to her voice, and the stench of rot blew in. The next morning, 17-year-old Luke, the estate's groundskeeper, banged on the manor's door, pale and shaking. "Mayor, it's the Boyd's little girl, Clara. She drowned. They pulled her from the pond this morning." Edward ran with Luke to the site. Townsfolk were gathered around the body. A pale, lifeless child sprawled on the grass, her lips blue. Clara's mother sobbed uncontrollably, shouting, "She was just playing." Something grabbed her. Before anyone could react, Helena, barefoot and barely clothed, emerged from the fog. Her steps were jerky, as though yanked by invisible strings. She knelt by the girl, placed both hands on her chest, and whispered words in a forgotten tongue. The girl coughed, spewed water, and gasped back to life. Cheers erupted, but Edward saw what others didn't. Deep red cuts on Helena's palms, dripping into the soil. "You gave it something," he whispered. Helena didn't reply. "Sorry for the interruption. If you're still watching, please hit that subscribe button below." So, let's continue the video. That night, Edward confronted Malcolm. "She revived a drowned girl, Malcolm. My wife." "How?" Malcolm didn't blink. "I think Helena's family was bound to something old. Something pagan. I've read accounts in the town's early records. A blood mother worshipped by settlers. The pond is a gate, Edward. A gate to something else." As the new moon approached, Helena grew more distant, her eyes dull and sunken. At midnight, Edward followed her as she left the manor in silence. She moved down to the pond, her nightgown soaked in dew. The water churned unnaturally. From its depths rose the same spectral figure, but larger, more defined. She was beautiful, and monstrous, her lower body rippling into inky tendrils, her eyes weeping blood. Helena extended her hands. "Take it," she whispered. The entity latched on, drinking deeply. Helena screamed but didn't resist. Edward shouted and fired his revolver. The bullets passed through the wraith, striking the water with impotent splashes. The creature turned to him, its mouth splitting impossibly wide. "Soon, you'll feed me too." Desperate, Edward found Father Abraham Shaw, an 80-year-old recluse and defrocked priest who lived in the ruins of an old church on the far side of the valley. "I knew this day would come," the priest rasped, pulling a heavy tome from beneath his cot. "That is no ghost, Edward. She is Lilith's spawn, an old god of blood who once ruled this land. Helena is her vessel now, and unless we break the pact, Ashmore will drown in crimson." The plan was madness. Drain the pond, reveal the blood altar said to rest at its bottom, and destroy it under consecrated fire. "She'll come for us when you start," the priest warned, "and she'll come hungry." The following night, Edward, Malcolm, Luke, and Abraham gathered with torches and shovels. They started the pumps. As the water receded, the stench of rot thickened. Helena screamed from the manor, her voice doubling into two, a wail of pain and another, deeper, inhuman growl. As the last of the pond drained, a circle of stone emerged, an ancient well sealed with red glowing runes. From its mouth poured fog and whispers. "Open it," Abraham ordered, his hands trembling as he began chanting from the tome. Edward pried it open with a crowbar. Beneath lay a pit of bones, hundreds, maybe thousands. A black altar rose from the center, wet with fresh blood. Lilith rose behind it, fully formed now, with bat-like wings and a serpentine spine, her mouth ringed with fangs. She struck at them with shrieking fury. Luke was thrown, blood pouring from his eyes. Malcolm held his ground, torch raised. "Now!" Abraham shouted. Edward hurled kerosene. The flames burst skyward, green and writhing. Lilith screamed, her form fracturing into thousands of shrieking shadows. Helena appeared at the edge of the pit, her face twisted in agony. "You killed her," she sobbed, reaching out. Then she crumbled into ash. The pond never refilled. They sealed it with concrete, and a chapel was raised where the altar had stood. But Ashmore was never the same. Animals vanished, people moved away. Malcolm drowned himself in whiskey. Luke refused to speak. Edward stayed. Some nights, under a cloud-covered sky, he hears Helena's voice from beneath the chapel floor. "She's not gone," she whispers. "She's waiting." And in the heart of Ashmore, the earth still hums when the new moon rises. Still watching, but not subscribed? A lot of effort goes into making these videos. When you subscribe and share, it keeps me motivated to create more. So please, make sure to subscribe.